Gamer7 and welcome back to another Crazy Sim here on the channel, continuing on with taking my Sims that I have made in the past, either for other series, like they were a part of a CAS thing, a challenge thing, whatever it may be. Either way, I am taking my previous Sims and turning them into Maxis match versions. Basically on my most of my saves, I use basically any and all CC. Now I do like the alpha hairs over the Maxis match / EA hairs, but when it comes to clothing and objects and other things like that, I think the Maxis match and the alpha can actually perfectly be fine sitting together. Now obviously there is some, in my opinion, that take it a little too far that I don't like the look of. Mainly in the alpha directions, like some of the things that are way too shiny, or it's gotten pixelated for some reason because it's like an image transferred onto a mesh or what. I don't know. I have never made CC, so I don't know exactly the exact process of how things are made, but sometimes you can see like a weird edge on certain things, especially plants. A weird edge or like some pixelation. But for the most part, I think Alpha and Maxis match does not look weird together. The only thing that is super noticeable to me, usually for the most part, is the hair. The alpha hair and the Maxis match hair are it's like, you know which one is which. And honestly, even with the objects and stuff, you sort of know which one is which, but at the same time, they don't look out of place. Because, in my opinion, and I've said this a few times before, but just in case you're coming across this video for the first time, or just to bring up the topic, to sort of talk about it, if you have got some opinions on it that you didn't originally have before, I definitely would like to know your thoughts. So feel free to always comment down below. But in real world, there is so many materials and processing and finishes and things like that. You can take the same piece of furniture and either make it out of a different material or paint it or put a stain on it or put a different type of finish on it, because you know you have glossy, you have semi-glossy, matte, textured, because the way things can be done. Even making like clothing and things like that, you can take cotton and depending on what you're doing with it and how you do it in the process and stuff, it can look and slightly have a different texture depending. So I think in those terms, when it comes to clothings and objects and things like that, for the most part, I don't mind Maxis match, EA, and alpha all coexisting together. It's just I do prefer the alpha hairs, and even doing this, I still prefer the alpha hairs. The only downside to alpha hairs is the fact that your game will auto-produce Sims with EA hairs, sometimes also alpha hairs, but, you know, there will be some Sims randomly walking around with really hard hair, and sometimes I go through and try to edit Sims as much as I can in the background. But also, sometimes I just decide to go with the fact that they just use a whole lot of hairspray. You have done something to your head that you probably shouldn't have, but you know what? That's you, that's your life, whatever. But yeah. However, I did decide that I did want to have, like, one playthrough or one game where I tried giving Maxis match a try, and also maybe some people just like the aesthetic of watching videos when it's all Maxis match, or mostly EA. So I was like, why not have a little bit of both? You know, on most of my stuff, I'll have my mix CC of alpha and everything, and on one of them, I'll have only Maxis match. However, doing that means that the game doesn't have very many Sims, and it will auto-generate some Sims. However, I do really have a connection to a lot of the Sims I made, even if I don't do anything more than just make them for a CAS series. I tend to be a little bit biased and like my Sims a little bit more. And I will more likely interact with one of my Sims that I've added into the world than I would a randomly generated or EA Sim, except for in certain cases, some of the EA Sims, they're staples, and yeah, they gotta be there, and I like them being there, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But anyway, that's besides the point. I wanted in my Random Life series, which is the one that is Maxis Match only CC in the save file, I wanted some of my Sims existing in the world. And I've always sort of been curious to see what I could do with my Sims if I only used Maxis Match stuff. Because when it comes to some of the alpha stuff, they can get a little crazy with their CC. And that's perfectly fine, because sometimes I like a little bit of crazy. And also a lot of times, I do like fantasy type Sims that are more on the lines of not really your normal reality type thing. So, that's fine. Trying to make them look more of the Maxis Match aesthetic. I've been curious to be like, I wonder, would they give the same vibe? Would I like them as much? Would I end up liking them more or less in Maxis Match? So I've always sort of had this thought process. So this was the perfect time to do a CAS series of Alpha to Maxis Match. Obviously, like I said, not all of my CC is purely Alpha. But it's just easier to say Alpha to Maxis Match. Anyway, this is Ruby. We've made it through probably half of the video by now. At some point, I should have had a picture. I might do it right around when I'm talking about this, just so that you can take a look and have it right for reference. I know if you're like me, sometimes you're playing YouTube and videos in the background, and you're semi-watching, and you're catching things every once in a while. But sometimes you're not, so yeah. Anyway, I would put a picture of the original Ruby somewhere in this video, most likely around this point, so you can see her original version. Now with Ruby, she is one of my older Sims, and she actually started out wearing a lot of stuff that was EA or Maxis, or like at least semi-Maxis Match, like early days. And she was a Sim that on my old channel, you have to deep dive in like the very beginning of my channel to find her. Because she was from when I went to attempt the 100 Babies challenge. However, I was attempting that challenge within my main save, is what I call it. It's the save I've had since the very beginning. I am not letting those Sims die. I mean, they are slowly aging, but I turn off aging every so once in a while, because I don't want the Sims dying, and I play multiple households in that save, not just one household, like multiple households. And I realized, for the purpose of the challenge, her kids were aging up really, really quickly, but then none of the, parents and stuff was, and it sort of seemed very weird in that save, and I didn't like that I did it in that save, and I wish I would have made a whole new save for it. Now, looking back on it now, I definitely would have. However, at the time, I did not. So I eventually stopped the 100 Baby challenge. I think she got to 19. And I was just like, no, this is just a lady that was really, a little bit on the crazy side, and decided she wanted to have a bunch of kids by a bunch of different guys. But then, eventually she was like, nope, okay, my body can't take anymore. So yeah, anyway, to try to rationalize her in my main save world. But she's still in the background, she's still there, chilling, doing her own thing. If I ever tried the 100 Baby challenge again and made a new save for it, I probably would still use her, just because I feel like I have to. I do think she is a pretty, cutesy Sim. I really liked Ruby from the beginning. And so I would probably use her if I actually tried the 100 Baby challenge again in its own little save. So, yeah. Anyway, that's where she's from. And now we are maxifying her. Now again, because she is an older Sim, she sort of had some stuff that was just EA. But I did try to purposely give her outfits and use outfits that were CC. So like Maxis Match CC, mixed with some EA stuff. So I did try to incorporate a lot of that Maxis Match new CC that I got when I could. Now some of the stuff, like I said, her first initial dress, which is like that pink dress, that's an EA dress, so I did keep her that, but I gave her a different, a second everyday outfit that was some of my CC that I'd got for the save. So yeah, I did want to incorporate that. I also gave her a few different hairstyles, because she was one of the few Sims that I did give different hairstyles on different outfits. The only reason why sometimes I don't do that is just because I'm really picky about the colors. That's another thing when it comes to Alpha, I will say. If you get two different hairstyles that are from two different creators, sometimes it is hard to get colors that look close enough that it's feasible to think that that is just the same hair, just in a different style. Now at this point I have built up so much CC on where my alpha hairs are that some hairs, I have so many hairs from the same creator. I know I have a lot of Leah Lilith, I have a lot of, I think it's Sonia Sims, ZAO. One is like Mood, but it's got like 3 or 4 O's in there. Oh, I'm picturing the hairs in my head, but I can't remember who. It starts with an S. But yeah, I have an Anto hairs. I have a lot from the same creator, so, you know, it's a little less of an issue once you build up enough CC for it, but until then, sometimes it is an issue. However, with Maxis Match, it pretty much all stays within those colors that EA gives, so not as hard to do. That is one of the plus sides of that as well. However, I still just like the alpha hairs. That will probably never change. But here at the end of the video, you also will get to see screenshots of Maxis Max versions of Ruby, but I do have a few pictures of her side by side with her original version, where she has some of the more alpha stuff on, and the more all completely Maxis Match stuff version. So you can see a comparison of the two together. Ruby is one, she has the, like a pink and red aesthetic with like hearts, strawberry cherries, like that's sort of just always been in my head for some reason with her. But I really liked how both versions of her looked. Ruby's probably one of the ones I feel about equal on which ones I like more. And it may be partially with Ruby because she did start out in an era where I didn't have much CC, when it was mostly just EA stuff. And I was just starting to get CC in my game, and some of the stuff I was getting was more Maxis Match at the beginning, just because I didn't know if I wanted to go down the route of alpha hairs and stuff at that time. So yeah, anyway, so maybe that's partially why, but I still love her as a Maxis Match version and as her original version. So either way it goes, I'm still really happy with her and how she turned out. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Hope you're looking forward to seeing more of my Sims turned into Maxis Match versions. I definitely know it's been quite interesting seeing some of them. Some of them have actually, in my opinion, look a little bit better than their original, surprisingly. Some, like Ruby, are a little bit equal, and then there are a few that I'm just like, yeah, no, I need your original CC back on you. But we'll get to those as the time goes. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video. Comment, like, subscribe. You know that lovely YouTube goodness if you haven't done it already. And I'll see you in the next video. But until then, bye-bye!